another fantastic, mesmerizing episode of Listen, Motherfucker.
Uh-huh.
So we are here with Mr. Frazier Green, the fourth.
The fourth.
And otherwise professionally known as...
The bullet hole concept when I'm playing music. Yep.
The bullet hole concept.
Yeah.
How did you choose that?
Okay, so in the last episode, we talked about the EP I wrote all about one person. By the way, I'm going to shameless plug myself. It is on Spotify. I will warn you, the vocals aren't as good as I would like them to be because at the time I was still finding my voice and where it fits. When you come and see me live now is the time to really judge where I'm at. But anyway, it was all written about one person. This person and I were very close. We were very close friends. And we were kind of doing like therapy, basically. Okay. Talking. I had some deep shit that was holding me back. And while we were both sitting in my car talking, she actually came up with this kind of idea of like, well, yeah, different metaphor for different things in your life are like taking different bullet wounds or even a ricochet. Mm-hmm. You can get hit by a 22, probably not going to kill you depending on where it hits you or how close they shot at you from. And there's other things that are like taking a shotgun blast to the chest. And I was mulling around with it. I woke up the next day and I was mulling around with it. And I was like, and she coined the term. She said the bullet hole concept, but I was like, that's a fucking name for you. So
yeah.
I kept it because the metaphor, and I have the logo on my arm. It's a scalpel inside of a bullet hole that's bleeding, that's been shot. And the idea is, the metaphor turned into, the truth of it, or the ending of it was, you get shot, and if you don't take care of it, it's going to get infected. It's going to get festered. That bullet's still going to be in you. You're going to have to get it cleaned out. And when you get it cleaned out, the infection and everything that's grown around it, the scar tissue, is more painful to take out than what you ever was to put back in. So it was this idea of like, we need to start cleaning out your system and this is going to suck on every level because you've let this fester for so many years and you've never dealt with it. And I think a lot of people.
And she was talking
therapeutically.
Talking to you on a deep personal level of the bullet holes.
Yeah. And the idea
that you've taken throughout your life.
Yeah. And the idea was, like I said, you go through a breakup, a basic relationship breakup. Well, it's like getting shot by a 22. Everybody goes through it. Everybody's going to live through it for the most part. A couple people might get winged and really go down. But if you don't fix it or figure out what went wrong and get it cleaned out of your system, it's going to get infected.
And how are you now? Did you...
Well, there's a reason
have you chewed through a lot of those? I mean, did you go through surgery and you're all...
Oh yeah. Yeah. In that case, yeah. And even that relationship that ended, the friendship that ended and how badly it did even made it through that one. So yeah, no, I recommend people, if you have the ability or the courage to go check out therapy, it's worth checking it out at least. And the other thing is, don't find a therapist and just assume that they're the best one because you found them. Finding a therapist is like finding a doctor. You have to find the one that works best for you and doesn't just bullshit you also.
This is going to sound corny.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that about women. We haven't told our story, Tiff and I, and I haven't gone deep into who I have been in past as a human being, but I spent a lot of years as a reasonably shitty person.
Mm-hmm.
And I had went through a short marriage, 6 years before I met Tiff. And she was, I'm guessing because of my upbringing, Tiffany was the first female I ever met that I had respect for.
Really?
And I knew it from the beginning. And it sounds corny as fuck.
Well, yeah, but also because of your upbringing, you have that disposition.
Yeah, I did.
Right.
And just terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. And not only was she the first one that I ever had any respect for, she was the first one to call me out and be like, why do you act like this?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And because I actually had respect for her, I was listening.
Right, you were listening.
And she just completely called me out on my walls. And we've been together for 21 years, and I'm sure all my walls aren't down yet. But
right.
Man, I know a lot of people that have been through therapy and they needed it.
Right.
And the corniest part of all of this is, I swear to God, I felt like I married mine. She's the first one that ever could. Her and I can just talk through fucking anything.
Right. Yeah. And that's awesome.
Hard to find.
Yeah.
It is fucking hard to find.
Oh yeah. I was single for a very long time. I know how many women you can go through and still not find one that's worth. And not that, let me back up and how I phrase that. I know how it's like to go through a lot of them that aren't worth your time, or worth my time, but it doesn't mean they're not worth somebody else's.
Yeah.
But just because it doesn't fit me, same like I said with therapists, just because it doesn't fit you doesn't mean it's not bad for someone else.
Every experience I ever had in life, there's a positive and a negative that I can attempt to pull out of it.
Yeah.
I certainly couldn't do that in the moment.
Right.
But hindsight allows me, and I mean, that would be the advice that I've given my daughter, that I've given my son in some relationships, whether it's like a boyfriend, girlfriend, or just friends or whatever. That's, I think, what I probably told them the most, that you need to react to it. You're going to react to it. It's human nature. Give it a little bit of time after you've had a chance to react. Now, don't just try to flush it, or you won't be able to learn anything from it, and you'll repeat the motherfucker.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways,
but yeah, that's where the name came from. Just the idea of
that's cool.
It's the idea. It's the dichotomy of, you have to get injured, but you need to heal. That's why there's a scalpel inside the bullet hole of just like, now we got to fix it. We can't just let it sit here. So and that's also, again, it goes back to the idea we were talking about last episode of music's my therapy.
Yeah.
It was a perfect just storm of like, it's a badass little name that also encompasses everything I want to talk about.
Gotcha.
So it worked out good.
Got it. So let's immediately move into Dissonant Harmonics.
There's a mouthful. I am so sorry.
You chose it. So
I agreed.
Dissonant Harmonics. Dissonant Harmonics. You have your own podcast.
I do.
So please tell us why, what, and who, because you do it with someone.
Yeah.
Give us the rundown of why this fucking thing exists.
I am going to just apologize to my co-host Josh. I'm going to rip you through the coals, dude. But so the reason that we came up with this, can you imagine? Let me just make this joke. We made the podcast email, so we had a separate email for sending things back and forth, and all. If a business got a hold of us, we had an email to give them something like that. It wasn't in our personals. Can you imagine typing out Dissonant Harmonics podcast at gmail.com
over and over again?
Oh yeah, like for like every login, and then our passwords were like the same thing, but with a different number at the end. It's like, we could have chosen such a shorter name, but what we did is
you're talking to listen motherfucker
right.
at gmail.com, and I can't spell motherfucker. I can with this
right.
I can't over here. Okay, so no, I can't underscore. Can I add? Oh, okay. So now I have 4 of them all written down on a cheat sheet somewhere. Listen motherfucker, but it's not ever listen motherfucker.
Right.
Anyways.
So we so it was me and my buddy Josh. I did a podcast before with my 6 friends, and it was just us screwing around with microphones. Is all it really was. Is us drink the slogan for the show was called Bar Tools, and the slogan of the show was, what happens when you trap 6 blue collar men alone in a room with beer and microphones. This shit. And so Josh knew that I had done a podcast, knew that I liked to talk. I'm good at it. And was like, my buddy Josh is also the guy that I played in the band with the 2 other guys.
Okay.
He was the bassist.
Okay.
Always has been a great friend of mine since middle school. He's actually one of the guys that helped me get into heavier music when at the time I was just kind of just at Metallica level. And then he got me into the heavy stuff. And so he was kind of like, hey, I know you did a podcast. It would help me out a lot if I could do one too, and kind of get some of my creative stuff tapped, kind of tap that valve, because he has 2 lovely daughters, and an awesome wife that have been friends of mine forever. I'm their uncle as far as they know. So he's like, I'd love to do this. I said, sure, I'll set you up. I can show you how to do it and all that stuff. And he said, well, I want to do it with you. I said, okay. I kind of told him though, it's kind of your show. because this is your baby. It's your brainchild. I'm going to facilitate it and I'll help you host it. But I'm kind of just, it's become more of a, definitely a bro thing for us. Like, it's just a good day. It's like we text. He lives in Tennessee now. Since then, we used to record it in his shed out back. He now lives in Tennessee, so we have to kind of schedule it. But it's just time for us to also bro down before we even start. Kind of like with what we did before we even start recording. We spend an hour just BSing about our days,
right?
And we're always texting each other. So he first we came up with what was the idea going to be. Well, we both love music. We both specifically love rock and metal music. There's an infinite number of albums. There's an infinite number of topics. There's an infinite number of news coming out that we think people should know about. And we also have worked in the music industry together and also separately. So we have a lot of insight as to how the music industry works that you might not get unless you go to a specific place or already know. So we kind of were like, let's make a podcast for people that don't know a lot about the music industry and rock and metal music in general. Kind of just the idea. So then we were trying to come up with a name, and Josh is much more into heavy, ridiculous music, like just extreme metal. And I can't stand a lot of it. I love metal. I love screaming. I love deathcore. I love all that stuff in doses. I'm the more melodic guy in the group for sure.
I can't do metal that they're scream singing.
Yes, I can do that. I'm totally fine with that. It's just I can't have it every song over and over and over again. You just blast beats or what they're called and stuff like that. So he was like, well, what do we want to call it? I said, well, let's do something that's about the dichotomy of how you're super heavy, I'm more melodic and more into the pop type stuff. And, so we came up with dissonant, because when you do a dissonant chord, if you listen to that heavy metal a lot, you'll hear these weird, that doesn't sound like it belongs there. It almost sounds like it's out of tune, but it's on purpose. That's called a dissonant chord or a dissonant note. It's actually supposed to be there. I could show you an example later. And then harmonics, because I'm a harmony, more melody type guy, and they're prettier. Harmonics are also a special way to play a string on a guitar. The song Blurry by Puddle of Mud, that opening bit are harmonic notes. They play them a special way on the guitar. It makes that really pretty ringy bell type sound. So we came up with a name like that, and we're like, God, that thing's long. That's a mouthful. And what we do every episode is we kind of start the podcast with news from the week.
About music in general.
Mostly rock music, but yeah, if there's any big pop or country news, we'll go over that too. But we try to stick to the rock metal genres just because those are our specialty. And that's where we like to be anyway. And there's never a shortage of news. This week alone, we had like 8 massive fucking headlines to go over. Dave Grohl had a kid outside his marriage. Linkin Park's back, and Chester Bennington's son is losing his mind over it. Bon Jovi saved a woman from suicide. One guy created a bunch of AI songs, put them on every streaming platform, made $10 million, and he got arrested for wire fraud. Warped Tour is coming back, apparently. That's just off the top of my head that I can think of from today's, like from just this week. That's all we did. Oh, and Perry Farrell decided to fight Dave Navarro on stage at Lollapalooza. Can't tell you why, except for cocaine, maybe. But that's literally
Who's Perry Farrell?
The lead singer of Jane's Addiction. And he got in a fight on stage with his guitarist, Dave Navarro. So like literally that was just the news segment.
And he's the guy that fucked Carmen Electra? And he had some kind of tattoo show? Navarro.
Yeah, Dave Navarro. Yeah, he was the host, main guy on Ink Master. Here's the best part. I'm a very heavily tattooed guy. I have both my ribs done too. If you watch that show, there's not a single time Dave Navarro critiques or gives anything to say about the actual tattoos themselves. The dude doesn't know dick about tattooing, but they had him there as basically a celebrity voice. He was just a catch-all. Huh. But yeah, so that was just the news segment that we had for this week. So
you had a lot to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, like in last week, Linkin Park dropped the nuclear bomb on the music industry that they're back and they have a new singer and they have a new drummer. Oh, and by the way, our guitarist isn't going to be on tour with us, but he is going to be in the studio working and writing songs.
So if a band has a new singer, if a band that had 4 or 5 people has 2 that are no longer with them, do you still consider it the same band? Are you a fan of Linkin Park?
I love Linkin Park. I grew up.
Are you excited that they're back? Do you really think they're back?
No. So here's my take on it. and this is me being judgmental. The song that they put out isn't bad. The song is not bad at all. Her vocals are good. When she gets aggressive in the second chorus of the new song, it's actually pretty cool and pretty nice. I like it. It sounds like Linkin Park. But
my son recently was in Albuquerque, New Mexico for a work thing with his fiance, and he texted me how excited he was that he saw Leonard Skinner.
Yeah,
and I didn't pop his bubble, but I literally set my phone down and I'm like,
only one guy's alive. Isn't
you didn't see Leonard. You saw his brother that kind of sounds like him. That ain't Leonard Skinner's dead.
Yeah, exactly. That to me drives me. So in this case, this is the big distinction I make. And this is more of a behind the scenes thing. As long as the main principal songwriter or songwriters are still part of the band, it's still the same band. In this case, Mike Shinoda, the rapper, was the main principal songwriter in the band as far as we can tell and know. The biggest hangup I have is that Chester Bennington, the singer, was such an integral part of how those lyrics came across, how he sang them, and how that band functioned, that it's really hard to replace that. And I have a feeling what we're going to get on this album is a Linkin Park record mostly just written by Mike. And if you don't have them together, it doesn't sound the same. A good example of this is I cannot stand Evanescence ever since their second album came out. The reason why is because most of the songs always have been and always will be written by Amy Lee. No judgment there. But the first album she co-wrote with the guitarist, Ben Moody. When Ben Moody left after the first album, which everyone knows multiple songs off the first album. I can't get anyone to tell me, name 3 other songs off any other album they've ever put out. Because Ben Moody was that extra piece that needed to be in the band for the songwriting to be as good as it was. Gotcha. That's my opinion. Anybody can love Evanescence, just not my favorite. So when you start losing principal songwriters and stuff like that, that's when I start going, you're not the same band anymore. Because you literally are using someone else to write the songs.
Do you think it's strange that Axl Rose grew up to look like a fat lesbian?
I don't know what happened there, bro. Because here's the funny thing. I actually, growing up, only knew what Axl Rose looked like from like the
Sweet Child of Mine video?
Yeah, from Appetite of Destruction era.
Yeah.
So when I saw him later and people were like, yeah, Axl Rose looks like, I'm like, I legitimately said, that's not Axl Rose. What is wrong with you? Like, what?
I saw, it was on Facebook years ago. It was a picture of Mickey Rourke and Axl Rose together. Yeah. And they both looked like a couple of
lesbian grandmas,
grandmas that had way too much to eat.
Well, it's because
one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen.
And Mickey Rourke's problem is all the plastic surgery he did. Like, it's like, dude, you used to be a good looking dude that was in like all these like really risque films, like 9.5 weeks. And you went and got your face fixed, and in the process, fucked it up.
Big time.
Royally.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks like a fucking cartoon character.
Yeah.
All right. So, I think I now understand dissonant harmonics.
Yeah. I mean, let me back up. Sorry. So we do the news, and then we always have a topic based on the music industry in general.
Okay.
And then the last section of the podcast is an album review submitted by each of us. Typically, this is Josh's time to try to piss me off and give me the heaviest crap he can find, while I pick something that's somewhat reasonable.
God, and force each other to have to review.
Yeah, and it's fun because there are times I send him albums I absolutely love, and he legitimately hates them. And he sends me albums on purpose to piss me off because they're over the top, ridiculously heavy. And he's like, "Go listen to this for a week." I'm like, "Fuck you." So it's fun. Yeah. So we hit topics all the time of, I just want to make sure that people knew we have like 3 sections of the show. We also do topics all the time of like, how does production work? How does money work in the industry? How does this work? How does that work? And there's a lot of things that we've been able to talk about that a lot of people will get into fights on Facebook about just because they don't know all the information. And we're like, no, like, I don't know if you know the band Bad Wolves. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you know how Tommy Vex, the lead singer, was kicked out? So the original lead singer that did the Zombie cover was kicked out. He wasn't kicked out. Not only that, he couldn't be kicked out. Most people don't know this. Everyone just thinks that he was kicked out because of his views on Trump and MAGA and politics and whatever. And the truth is, he was hired by the record label to have a solo project. That solo project turned into Bad Wolves. He wrote that whole album with another guitarist named Max Caron, who does almost all of Bad Wolves' material and also has done all of Tommy Veck's solo material. And they couldn't even legally kick him out of the band because he was the sole owner of the band. But so many people just not knowing how the music industry works and not knowing how to read between the lines when it comes to statements are just like, yeah, you got kicked out. No. Hang on. You have to look at all the pieces that you aren't able to see because they're not allowed to talk about it. Same with Five Finger Death Punch. Every single member that's ever left that band, you notice, has gone completely silent. It's because they have gag orders on each other all the time. And people don't know that. They're like, what happened to this? Why aren't you talking about this? There's a contract in place saying that guy can't talk about shit.
For probably forever.
Yeah, and forever. There was an interview recently with the former guitarist of Five Finger Death Punch, and not one question was asked about him leaving. Or when he did leave, he would just like skim over it and just be like, yeah, I know it was time for me to go, whatever. So there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize happens in the music industry that we talk about is the big thing.
How long have you had the podcast? How long have you guys been doing this together?
Well, we just recorded episode 25. We've been doing it about a year. We had to take a 6-month break because Josh was moving to Tennessee and it was a big ordeal. So we did have to put a cap on it for a little bit.
And what avenues of social or what avenues can people find this?
Spotify and YouTube. The reason why is because I was saying earlier, there used to be a podcast website called Anchor, and it distributed to everywhere: Google, iTunes, Spotify, whatever. Well, Spotify heard about this and bought them. So now it's called Spotify for podcasters, and it only exclusively distributes to Spotify.
Have you ever heard of Buzzsprout?
I have not. I've been looking for any free way to get.
So I use Buzzsprout.
Okay.
And we load to Buzzsprout. It's only audio though.
Yeah.
Buzzsprout only loads audio.
Yeah.
If I want video, then I either go to Rumble or I go to YouTube.
Okay. Yeah. We don't have any audio. We have plenty of audio. We don't have any video. We just don't have the capacity or time for it. I do all the editing and everything. So if you hear a screw up, it's my fault.
That would be tough.
Yeah. So it's hard to do both and match everything up. And I just don't have the know-how or the patience.
Oh yeah, dude. You need to look up Buzzsprout because it's all of them. It's iHeart. I mean, it's everything you can think
so that's what Anchor used to be for free. And then Anchor also, like I said in the last episode, gave you the opportunity, said, if you want to start making money at this, per every some odd amount of clicks, we'll send you an ad read. And for every certain amount of clicks or plays you get on your episode, you will get X amount of money.
Gotcha.
So they used to have that too.
I've only had 500 downloads on Buzzsprout, so that's probably not enough for anyone to be interested in telling me to do anything. It's not free, but it's not expensive.
Yeah, no, that's the other thing. People don't realize the money you make on Spotify is nil. Like, there's no point. Like, there's no point in trying to do it for money. I tell people all the time, I had a guy, an older gentleman who might not quite know how technology works or how this works, or might not have his finger on the pulse at least, and not being rude. But he's like, why is it I can't make any money on Spotify? I'm like, because for every click on a song, you make
3 cents.
I think not even that. No. So in order to make $1 on Spotify, you have to have 250 plays of a song of any song, right? So let's just do the average. I did the average math on this one day just because I was curious. The average song is 3.5 minutes. Multiply that by 250. And by the time you get to the end of all that and then divide it, you're talking about 12 hours worth of listening. So I have to listen to one song that's about 3.5 minutes long for 12 hours straight in order for an artist to get $1. So then put this into perspective. The average album length is between 35 and 40 minutes. Now nowadays it's between 30 and 40 minutes. So you have to listen to that album for 12 hours to get $1. So basically what it turns into is anywhere between, and then if you go up to like 4 minutes a song, you're talking 16 hours because it compounds. So, a lot of people aren't seeing this right now is, on iTunes, you used to buy a song for $1. $1 went to the band minus the distribution fees from iTunes. The record label got their cut, whatever. And nowadays with Spotify and streaming, you're talking jack shit for money.
Rough.
Yeah. So if you go on to any, go to any Any song on Spotify, look at how many listens it has, divided by 250. That's about how much money that artist is making without including distribution costs, paying it to the record, about 40% to the record label, whatever. So like I said, this is the stuff that we talk about that people don't know about, is like Nickelback's, I think one of Nickelback's biggest songs on Spotify has 250 million streams. Perfect. We'll use that number. That means they got $1 million off that song on Spotify alone. Now you have to divide that between 4 guys, depending on who helped write the song, which mostly Chad Kroeger writes all their music for the most part. So he probably gets a good chunk of that. And then 40% has to go to the record label. God knows how much has to go into distribution. So by the time you're done, yeah, they made $1 million off that song, but you're lucky if each member is getting 250 grand at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still a lot of money per song, but you know, you see these bands, like most of the bands I listen to, their highest numbers are between 40 million clicks or whatever. Once you start dividing that all down, you're talking maybe $10,000.
Right.
And then you have to go, then people don't realize this. Well, $10,000 is a lot of money for one song. Right. But you have to now live on that. And you only really release an album every 2 years. And those are their highest charting songs.
Which is why they're all out on tour.
Right. And then you also have to include, they have to pay for their own insurance. They don't get insurance through their job. So they have to buy their own insurance. They have to pay their rent, all their food, everything. And those are the numbers you can see on the top 5 songs and the most popular 5 songs they have out.
But Taylor Swift can make $1 billion on a tour.
Oh yeah, easy. Well, it's just, she's so popular. It's that simple. She's also smart. She's wicked smart. I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift's music, but I'm a fan of Taylor Swift because when she re-recorded, a lot of bands are doing this now.
So you don't consider yourself a Swiftie?
No, not at all. No, I hate it. If someone, when people are like, it's Taylor Swift, I'm like, I fucking hate it. Respect the woman, hate her music. A good example is we've been talking a lot about a lot of these bands nowadays are re-recording things, not re-releasing them. They are going back into the studio and re-recording entire albums from start to finish. Everything. Hi, Mom. And people are like, why are they doing that? Well, Taylor Swift actually started doing it. And the reason why she did it is because when she re-recorded her first album, the record label owned it. So she went back in, and the record label refused to sell it to her.
Yeah, I've read about this.
So on her own, she went in with a band and re-recorded that entire album note for note. So it almost sounds exactly the same, plus minus the production quality. So it's like watching a TV channel versus an HD TV channel. Mm-hmm. And now she makes 100% of the money off of it because it's re-recording a new album legally, and the record label can't touch it. It's all hers. There's a lot of bands doing it with their biggest albums right now. Like a lot
I 100% support that.
Yeah.
100%.
And here's the other thing you notice on Spotify, especially in the metal community on my end, where people aren't making a lot of money because they're not as popular. You know, metal's not as big a genre as pop or country is. And no one's going to argue with me on that. A lot of these bands now, it's pissing me off because it's one of my favorite bands. It's all DIY and independent, so they don't really worry about money. All their songs are over 4 minutes long. They have an album. It's Like a Storm from New Zealand. Their entire Catacombs album, every song is over 4 minutes. And they're great songs. They're not boring. They're all 4 minutes long, and it's awesome. One of the songs is 6 or 7 minutes long, and it's great.
Which is Metallica was famous for.
Yeah, but you're going to see it all disappear. These mainstream metalcore bands that do have to worry about money and are making their living doing this, you'll notice all the albums are getting down to about 10 tracks a piece, and they're barely breaking the 3-minute mark per track. And normally one track is an instrumental that's like 1.5 minutes long. Why? Because when you go to listen to an album, and let's say I set my album on repeat, those are 3-minute songs. Well, if I can't get to my phone for half an hour or whatever, and I just, like I did, like I'm sure you do, you leave an album on loop while you're doing something. Mm-hmm. What takes longer to get through, a 3-minute album or an album that's 30 minutes long, or an album that's 45 minutes long? So you have that many more songs getting played. So it's technically more clicks. So think about it. If I put on, I'll use the example of the one that I think of first is Memphis Mayfire released an album. All the songs were barely breaking the 3-minute mark. Another band I love called Wage War did the same thing. They put out a 10-song, I'll use Wage War. They put a 10-song album out. It barely clicks the 30-minute mark. Every song is 3 minutes or under. One song is 3 minutes and 15 seconds. If you leave that album on repeat for a little bit and go do something, or you're working in the yard and you just have it on, well, if you're working for 2 hours, you've listened to the album 4 times. That's 40 songs. But if I put on Tool's album, by the time I get done with 2 hours, I've maybe listened to the album twice. And there's 12 tracks. So I've only listened to 24 tracks. Wage War listened to 40. And Spotify's metric only cares about how many times a song gets listened to. So it's literally about clicks and how many times that song gets clicked on or gets listened to.
Changing the business, right? Changing the industry.
It's changing the industry. It's making the music shorter, less creative. There's less space in it. There's less room for intros. Like most of the time, the songs just start right off the bat. There's no intro. There's also no guitar solo. All the songs and everything is rushed and put together. And I don't mean rushed, but...
one of the best intros of any song ever in the history is Battery by Metallica.
Yeah, Battery. But these instrumentals are going out the window. The creativity is going out the window because people are like, we need to make these songs as entertaining and as short as possible. Because if I put it, or here's another example, a band that I love put out an amazing song that was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It doesn't sound like it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds because it's that good of a song. But if I put it on repeat and just go to work for an hour, I'll listen to that song 45 times by the time the hour's up. So you have 45 clicks instead of, half that. And it's a way to create revenue that these bands are desperate to do because they're not making anything off of Spotify anymore. The idea of selling a record, I think one of the bands I listened to broke it down back when CDs were still being bought and Spotify was just coming in. If you bought an album for $13, which was the average price back in the day, between $10 and $15, so let's just say 13. The band got like $7 to $8 of that. But if you bought an album from iTunes for exactly $10, it was always $9.99. The band got like $3 or $4, almost the same price point, but they got such a lower division of it because of the ease of access. So it's creating this unfortunate dilemma where the biggest artists, Taylor Swift or whatever, can do whatever they want and make albums as long as they want because they have the money and the means to do so. The lower bands are making songs that are quick, entertaining, and that you'll repeat all the time. But there's no space. There's no breathing in the track. There's no instrumentals. There's no guitar solos. There's no bridges. It's just verse, chorus, out. Because they have to make the songs as short as possible to get more clicks on it.
Got it. Okay.
This is literally what we talk about on the podcast.
Okay.
It is just
now you all know.
That's literally a conversation we've had. It's that music business.
If that was interesting,
yeah, listen to our podcast because that's what we talk about.
Got it. All right. So, in our previous episode together, we talked about your personal story, a lot of it, your love of music. You talked about weightlifting, MMA. So are you trained in any particular martial art?
Yeah. So MMA isn't a sport, is the way I say it.
Okay.
You train in, and I train in specifically. Mostly the two main disciplines our gym does is Muay Thai, which is your striking, your punching, kicking, elbows, knees. And then Jiu-Jitsu is your wrestling and grappling game.
Okay.
Now we obviously add in boxing defense. Your boxing head movement and defense is some of the best you could ever learn. It's one of the best things you could ever learn is what I should say. So yeah.
And how long have you been doing this?
4 years. Actually, I'm back up 3.5. So the big thing, coming up on 4 years. The big thing is that people hear MMA and they think that is a singular sport. What you need to do is if someone says, hey, I train MMA, okay, what disciplines do you train in? Which is what you asked me.
Yeah.
Because MMA in and of itself means, and everybody knows, means mixed martial arts, which is you have trained in all these different types of martial art. Now you have to tie them all together to fight how you normally would in kind of like in a street fight. That's the whole point of the UFC. And what they started doing is, okay, let's take all the rules away within reason. And let's see what people would do in a street fight if we locked them in a cage and made them fight. That's the whole idea, is that the only difference is you're forced to fight. So yeah, MMA is jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. It's not, MMA itself isn't its own sport.
Are you personally better at one of those than the other?
Here's how I say it. I've trained at Muay Thai a lot more, and so I'm better at it technically because I've spent more time doing it. Jiu-jitsu I am naturally better at, but I have way less training in because our dear coach had some health issues, so I had to step away from teaching jiu-jitsu.
So you're pretty sure you could take me?
Oh yeah, I got you. But
that's hurtful.
I'm sorry. Jiu-jitsu. The number one thing you start doing when you start training is, I'll get to this in a minute. I'll shelf that for a second. But yeah, so I'm naturally better at wrestling because I had brothers growing up. So I learned how to grapple and how to control a body better. Mm-hmm. But I'm less trained in it. So I'm naturally better at wrestling, but I'm well more versed and trained in striking.
If you were fighting someone on the street, you're a bouncer sometimes.
Yeah.
So if you were fighting somebody in a parking lot because you couldn't avoid it, mm-hmm. not a cage, are you bringing them to the ground
yes.
and subduing them?
Yep.
As opposed to wanting to actually punch and kick them?
Yep, always, because you're gonna be able to do.
You can manipulate them and just close it.
Well, not only that, you can do what you need to do and have less damage done to you and done to them. It's just simple. You throw a fist, you can knock someone out. They hit their head, they're dead.
You're in jail now.
Yeah. You use jiu-jitsu or a grappling technique, you can get them to the ground reasonably gently without having to break anything or slam them on the ground. And, you use a hip bump or whatever, their hips just go over yours and their hips land on the ground. And now you're in control. Now I can put you in a situation where I can choke you. I can put you in a situation where I can get a hold of one of your limbs and threaten to break it, but not cause life-threatening injury. You're going to submit before I break your arm. Trust me. That's kind of where it comes to is I tell everybody, I tell women especially, if you need to go train something, go train jiu-jitsu. The whole thing, the magic wand of jiu-jitsu when it came out and was in the UFC is that these little tiny guys were beating the living hell out of massive dudes, mm-hmm. throwing them around a ring and choking them out and leaving them on the floor unconscious. And like you said, I love that you said this, that if you were forced to fight them, if some dude comes up to me and immediately starts putting hands up like he wants to fight, I have every option to run away or walk away. You can get away from almost any fight until someone helps in a fist fight. The second someone grabs you, you need to know what to do with that person or your body to get out of that situation. Mm. For me, it's a survival thing. If I'm going to have someone I love punching and kicking people because they don't know what's coming and they don't know I'm trained. So it's way more fun. It is way more fun to punch someone in the face and watch their jaw get rearranged. But it's way safer, way better for you, especially ladies, to learn jiu-jitsu and learn how to control someone and manipulate them. Here's another little fun fact. 5% of the planet in total trains any form of martial art. That means 95% of it, the 95% that don't train or the 5% of us that train are head and shoulders above the rest of the planet. And you also got to remember most of the, I would say, Asian area, especially Thailand, they train from the day they wake up. So you have to include the fact that of the 95% that don't train, there's like an entire country of Thailand that does train all the time, every day. That's like what they do. So you come to America, it's more like 97, 98% of people don't train. Mm-hmm. And back to what you were saying, one thing you do, I do, and it's not like a paranoia thing and it's not a macho thing. You see a guy immediately, especially when you're bouncing like I do, you look at someone, immediately start deciding how you need to take care of them if something goes wrong.
Right.
And it's not a paranoia. People always think like, oh, you're paranoid. No. I look at you. My job is to be security. My first thing I'm doing is deciding how you're sitting, how you're standing, how you're moving, and what body part I'm going to get a hold of first to neutralize the threat. Period. End of story. So the first thing you're doing to everybody is not like sizing them up because you want to fight them. You're checking them out. You're seeing how they walk. You're checking out what limb is going to be the most easy to get to. I had a guy that was kind of being aggressive last night. Not bad. Actually, last night was really cool. But he had his back leg really far back. First thing I'm doing, I'm going to slide in and put my right knee on his inner thigh, spread his legs even farther and move behind him and probably hip bump him over my hip. He's off balance already. Like it's the first thing you do is you start checking out how people are standing and walking. And that's the other thing. I've never looked at someone that's being aggressive in the bouncing world and gone like, I'm going to punch you in the face first. No, I'm going to use jiu-jitsu and grappling because first off, I'm not supposed to punch you. That looks aggressive. I'm going to try to get a hold of you and neutralize the threat. I'm going to try to make sure that I have a better advantage than just a fist fight.
How often as a bouncer does that situation even arise?
It depends on that's totally
every
different.
single day, or
No.
completely random?
Completely random. Well, you also got to remember it depends on the bar, the neighborhood, and what else is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Where I work, not a problem. I could sleep through shift. People are always like, man, this job must be hard. No, it's easy. It's the easiest thing I've ever done. I don't have to worry about anything. It's stress-free. I sit here and chill out, and I check IDs for the most part. If I'm downstairs walking around, I mean, we had a guy, the worst thing I've seen really is we had one guy, and you see it. You know it before it happens. You start to hear the commotion, you look over, two guys are bucked up, and you walk in the middle and go outside, you're done, end of story. Or
you're done as in you guys are done
yeah, you're done in here. You either take it outside and fight, and we'll call the cops, or you start going at it here, we pull you apart, and then the cops deal with you outside. Those are your choices.
Either way, are they leaving?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, well, no. So, like, if two guys start bucking up, we're going to try to separate them. Okay. But I'm also saying, I'm kind of jumping ahead. I'm going to the point of like,
if they're not ready to go.
Yeah. If you two decide to actually do this, it's just going to ruin your night. Just don't. You know, I mean, we had a guy that was a little scrawny. That's the other thing. You find all these guys that want to fight are really weak people. They really are. That's what it comes down to. I'll say this. I'm going to say something I probably shouldn't. I carry a gun everywhere I go. Period of the story. The reason I get up, when I used to work 410s, I would get up on Friday and I would go lift weights immediately. I would come home and eat breakfast. I would go train MMA for an hour and a half. And if we had jiu-jitsu, I would train 2 hours because I would do Muay Thai and then jiu-jitsu. And then I come home, I eat lunch, and I immediately go out and I train with my firearm because my entire point of training MMA and weightlifting and my firearm is to protect the people I love and take care of them. Or should a situation arise, protect anyone else that might need it. So when I forgot where my train of thought was going, but when you're in that situation, you're always like, yeah, you're checking out people, checking out how they're standing or whatever. But yeah,
it was probably 6 weeks ago at the Big Lake Bar and Grill, and my wife does paintings and she does art projects there like once a month and has people come in and pay to be part of it, right? And somebody knocked one of her things down that was at a different table, and Tiffany understandably was reactionary and was in a female way, motherfucking this and motherfucking that, trying to pick up the pieces and put it all together. And and so that, I guess this dude was like eyeballing our table the rest of the evening. I wasn't paying any attention to it. Somebody was there playing music, I think. And so when we were getting ready to go, I could see this guy was all Mr. Eyeballs. I don't give a fuck. And then as we get out, and I was with Tiffany and my daughter, and we walk out, and as the doors close and I look back up, and he's still staring. So I'm staring back and like shaking my head like,
what are you doing? Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden the door opens and he's like, is there a problem here? And I'm like, and so I'm like, I don't know. Is there a problem? I don't have a problem. Is there a problem?
Yeah.
And so then the thing came up with the painting and everything. And he felt it necessary to say, hey, I mean, I'm not trying to be a bully. And in my mind, in my mind, I wanted to say, hold on. So are you under the impression that I see you as a bully? Is that what you're getting? Right. Is this your thing? You're somehow thinking that I'm feeling bullied. I said none of those things. I was, and then we ended up leaving. It was all fine, right? Everybody make nice, whatever. We left. But then at 2 a.m, I'm waking up irritated that I didn't say.
Yeah, your adrenaline spiked.
That I didn't call him out on. So wait a second. So right. You think you're a bully?
Right. Well, and so that's where my ADHD accidentally left me off track and then came back. Thank you for you for talking, because it gave me a break. What you were saying about sizing people up, and that's what I was coming at, and I forgot to mention that when I said I carry a firearm. When I first started carrying a firearm, I actually was deathly afraid that I was going to be reactionary to everything. But I realized very quickly, this first day I had it with me, that I was actually incredibly sensitive to human life. how amazing, how much power I have that I don't want to use. That's exactly what MMA does to people. That's where I was coming at, was the guys that like to fight and like to size people up are typically weak people, because
they can't actually fight in the first place.
No,
you're just all this.
Yes,
you just run your fucking mouth.
Because real martial artists, and I don't mean this as like there are hothead martial artists. We can see them on TV. But 9 times out of 10, when you start learning the power your body has to hurt somebody, to kill them, to break bones, and you don't have to put a whole lot of effort into it. For me to put you in an arm bar and snap your arm, it actually is surprising, because when we do arm bars, we actually do them pretty carefully, because the arm doesn't feel like it's the best way to describe it. And people might disagree with me. It doesn't feel like it's stretching. You can tell that there's pressure on the back of your tricep, but it doesn't feel like it's stretching, like someone's making you do the splits. The dangerous part of that is that you have to tap early, because the reason why is because you can feel the pressure. Your arm will break very quickly and suddenly. It's not like it's a slow, it's about to break right there, stop. No, it's like crack, and you didn't realize you had already gone too far.
Gotcha.
So when you start training martial arts, you very quickly, at least in my opinion and from my experience and from most people's, you very quickly realize that you don't need that bullshit. When you see a problem like that arise, and like you were frustrated that you didn't do anything, I go to sleep knowing, like I get amped up. I'm like, oh man, because I'm amped up because I might have to get in a fight. But the second I calm down, I'm like, okay, I'm good. I didn't want to, like, you very quickly come to the conclusion that you don't want
to. It was just ego. It was me waking up thinking, well, my wife probably, she's not in my head. My wife, the last thing I need is my wife thinking that, I was afraid to protect her if something would have happened, of which she didn't think.
Right.
And this guy, he was short and all kind of I don't give a fuck. And of course, my police friend of mine, as I bitched to him about the story, he's like, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
And that guy will continue. He will continue to, in his own mind, he thinks, who cares?
When most people are given the power to create or destroy life like that, or harm people like that, you very quickly realize that you have to be careful with what you do, because you can. And this is the fun thing. This is where, using the word, you become a bully. People that learn martial arts, that go out and specifically pick fights because they know they're going to win, that's a bully. That's the wrong side.
Yeah.
But most of us that train martial arts go out and train them and then we specifically don't want to get in fights because we know we can hurt you. We don't need to worry about this. This isn't my problem. I know I can kill you right now, but I'm not going to. And no, not only that, I don't want to. It's not worth my energy or time. One of my good friends that I train with, and he's also one of the coaches, is one of the nicest, most, you look at him, and I if you're watching this, you know who you are, and I'm not insulting you at all, I promise. He dresses kind of like a Seattle hipster guy. Mm-hmm. Kind of has the big glasses and everything. You never know that he's a fighter. But that dude will rip me around a ring for hours and just leave me bloodied, because the fighters are the nicest people I know, honestly, because we know the damage we can do to people. And we also know that you probably can't do that damage to us.
One of my friends, who is a police officer, is a little bit smaller in stature than me, and I'm not a big dude at all. He trains the snipers. Mm-hmm. He trains tactical combat for the SWAT team. Mm-hmm. I could list all of these things that he is good enough at. He teaches everyone else.
Right.
And you would have, looking at this person, you would be like,
yeah,
I don't know, that part of life I've just always found entertaining.
Yeah.
And he will tell you stories that he's like, just because you know it, exactly what you're saying, that makes you put more effort into trying to defuse a situation.
Yep.
Especially being a police officer, but even if you weren't.
Right.
Even if you weren't.
Yeah. And then 2 fun stories. There's a guy I watch and listen to on YouTube. He owns and instructs at a jiu-jitsu gym. He's 250, big dude, massive dude. His partner is like 175, tiny, skinny dude. And so when they have these big machismo guys come in, they have him wrestle the big guy first, the guy that I'm talking about, because they're going to get done. And they're like, well, you're 250, you're strong and all this stuff. They go, okay, go wrestle him. Then they get their butts handed to them again. And then they're like, oh, it's not about size. And that's why I encourage women to, especially women, to go, because, and the funny thing, jiu-jitsu, you can go as hard as you want and not hurt anybody, because the second you get here and you get to the choke, and I get to let go. I can wrestle you as hard as you want, and you can wrestle me as hard as I want. There's hardly any impact, no issues. And the second
it's exhausting.
Yeah, it is. And the second you get to the point that you're like, hey, you've got me in a submission and I give up, I tap you, we go again. And you can train as hard as you want. Punching people in the face, sparring, you can't train as hard as possible because you're going to break something. But yeah, you do spend a lot of time. Right along with sizing people up, you also spend a lot of time looking at people going, how do I diffuse you? Because what is it that's going to make you, is it a joke? Is it, hey, I'll buy you a drink. Like you said, we spend more time looking at everything to diffuse because we don't want to use what we have. Mm-hmm. It's training to protect, not for
understood
machismo.
Well, thank you for answering all that.
Yeah.
So, are there any, I don't think that you've had, obviously, I doubt that you've binged watched every LMF episode, so you probably don't really even know what miscellaneous topics we've had in the past.
I'm good for sideball or curveballs, though. Hit me.
So one of my, I have a Jewish friend of mine. We recently did an episode, him and I talked about life as a Jew. He's a dual citizen between Israel and the United States.
Oh, really?
That was an awesome episode. And then him and I, he's also political. Mm-hmm. So we did one on U.S. politics because that's such a mess nowadays. That's not posted yet.
See, that's my problem with politics now is I used to love politics, used to be all up in it, used to love the whole mechanism, the theories. My problem nowadays is it's such a mess, and people on both sides are so willing to blatantly lie to your face to the masses is more proper, and there's nothing we can do about it, that I've given up.
Short of another revolution, which isn't going to happen, and would be terribly destructive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where I was like, that's like, we talked and you asked me if there are any topics off topic. I said, if you ask me about politics, I'll be honest, I'm kind of going to give up because it's gotten so muddy that every time, if I even make a point, I'm going to have to say, but this and this and this.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's just gotten so hard to watch the circus, the shit show. It's just, I'm so done with it.
One of the most fun episodes that we've done recently, Brian and I, we call him Dr. McFuddy. He has his own YouTube channel where he's a genius when it comes to computers and anything technology. Mm-hmm. He created his own AI and it shut the fucking power off in his house.
Oops.
He had to dig it out of his computer or disconnected his internet or something. I can't remember what it was. And he just does a lot of really cool shit that way. He plays video games professionally. Mm-hmm. So him and I talked a lot about that, but we did an episode called This or That, where we were going back and forth. So okay. I would say something like, so because of the subject we just finished, I'm going to give you a few.
Yeah, hit me. I'm down for all. I'm up for weird shit too. I'm totally into weird dark humor.
So we're going to pick who's the bigger badass or wins a fight or however you want to think about it.
Yeah.
We'll go with the old one of Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris.
Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee has the patience and the timing. Chuck Norris is great, especially for karate, but Bruce Lee's going to kick your ass, I think. Bruce Lee literally breathed training, whereas Chuck Norris, obviously Chuck Norris is a badass. We're not going to argue that, but I don't think Chuck Norris lived it. I mean, I'm not sure if you ever watched the old interviews from when Brandon Lee was doing The Crow. Mm-hmm. Brandon Lee was like, people were like, what's your father like and all that? And he's like, my father lived training. All he did was train and that's just his passion. So I think Bruce Lee has that leg up. I mean, you could argue the two different martial arts and try to say that they're different, but
he was
per se.
tiny.
He was, but again,
Do you think that because we know I read a ton of books. I was infatuated with him when I was younger,
mm-hmm,
and so I read a lot about Jeet Kune Do, and I read a lot about Wing Chun,
mm-hmm,
and a lot of what he trained was actually created way centuries ago for women,
mm-hmm.
so that they could win,
Yeah,
and right, and so I always found so much of that interesting. But if you were to the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, did you watch it?
I didn't see it, but I know the basic idea and what it's about. Yeah.
Did you? So you don't? Have you ever seen the scene where Brad Pitt, as the stuntman, picked up Bruce Lee and threw him into the side of the car and dented the car?
No, I have not. No, I haven't.
So it's fictitious,
Mm-hmm.
but still funny, and sparked that thought process. No matter how awesome that I've always believed Bruce Lee to be, which he was, there comes a time that then no matter what you know, I would assume someone is going to be bigger and stronger,
Oh yeah,
and you're not going to be able to actually fuck with it.
So this is a AI thing that's going around now. One of the other reasons I despise social media nowadays. For the record, everybody that is watching this, I have a Facebook page. It's my personal Facebook page, and the only reason I have it is to share music stuff and where I'm playing and when I'm playing.
That's all I see on there.
If I didn't, and every once in a while I'll share a funny joke that's appropriate because so people can lighten up a little bit. But if I didn't have the music thing that I had to promote, I would not have any social media. You can get a hold of me on my phone and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I despise it. But there's this thing going around, especially with AI, and people are making the joke that, for instance, you know who Sean O'Malley is with the UFC? He's a scrawny guy. He's not very big. He's fought very, very small. But he's a very good martial artist. You can't deny that. And someone goes, no one knows that the guy on the left could beat the crap out of the guy on the right. Well, the guy on the right is like The Rock. Is like, there's a difference between, yes, you know how to do things, and having 200 extra pounds on your body.
Yeah, but because if he actually got a hold of you, you're fucked.
Right. Well, because, yeah, that's exactly
if he
right.
even knows this much about wrestling.
Right. Well, and there's another thing. You ever watch the flyweight guys, this really small guys fight? You see how they constantly can land blows and they're not getting knocked out.
And they're not getting knocked out.
And the heavyweights throw one good shot and they're going to the ground. Your head and your neck and your brain can only take so much
pressure.
Here's the big word. Yeah, force. So if I slap you with my phone, you're not going to really get a knockout from that. But if I hit you with a brick that's denser and bigger, you're going to get a knockout. These little guys, Sean O'Malley, I can't think, Brandon Moreno, Figueiredo.
I am not a Conor McGregor fan, by the way.
That's fine. I used to like him. I don't anymore.
I liked him at the beginning, and then it's like, dude, what the fuck? Just shut your fucking mouth.
Well, nowadays what he's doing is he's not fighting; he's selling.
Yeah, I get it.
But so the big thing that people need to realize is, you take Sean O'Malley, Brandon Moreno, or any of those guys, and you have them punch The Rock. It's going to be like those old TV shows where you punch the big bad guy and he laughs, because there's only so much force someone that size can create with a fist that small. But if The Rock punches you, you have 250 pounds behind that punch and a fist the size of a turkey. It completely changes the game, and so you can have all the skill in the world, but if you're going up against a giant, they're going to beat the hell out of you. And I think people need to realize that yes, there's a lot of skill involved. And that's why I'm kind of happy I'm a somewhat average. I'm bigger than average because of my weightlifting, and I'm 6 foot. But, here's a good example. And this is the story of what I was going to tell earlier. There was a day that we were doing jujitsu, and that same guy that kind of dresses like a hipster, he's smaller than me. He's called my MMA brother. We call each other brother. And he was doing jujitsu against our coach, and our coach was throwing him around like a rag doll. Well, the coach is built like a brick crap house. Our coach is pretty stocky, bigger dude. He's short. He's like 5'9", 5'10", maybe 5'8", but he can, and so Joey's sitting there on the side of the side of the ring after 5 minutes of getting his ass kicked. And then I go, hey coach, I'll go against you. Cause we're just switching partners. So it's not like, so I'll go against the coach. And then I get my ass thrown around the room. And Joey looked me dead in the face and goes, there are days that I really get discouraged because I just get thrown around this room because I'm smaller than you. And then I watch coach throw you around the room the exact same way he did me. and it makes me feel better about myself.
I did it.
Because yeah, there's a point to where, guess what, the size is going to make a difference, but there's also a point to where, like, my coach is pretty average size. He's a little bit shorter, but he's built bigger. So he's still going to throw you around the room because he has the technique, and he's,
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, are you having crunchy or creamy?
I prefer creamy for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but anything else, if it's just toast or whatever, it's always crunchy.
Really?
Yep. And also, crunchy doesn't spread as easy. It just tears up the bread.
It tears up the bread unless it's toasted.
Yeah. I love crunchy all the time for everything except for the sandwiches itself.
And what jam?
I'm not very picky. I got lucky. My grandmother used to make jam of all sorts as a kid, homemade. So, I mean, if I have to buy one off the shelf, it's Schmucker's. But if I have a choice, grandma's house.
Strawberry, raspberry, grape.
Strawberry every time. Strawberry. Yep. I'm not a big fan of anything grape flavor except for grapes.
Yeah. McFuddy answered grape. And I'm like, motherfucker. No.
Psychopath.
Don't. Yeah. No. You're not from Detroit, Michigan. Okay. There's no way you like fucking grape flavored anything.
I never like grape flavored.
No, it's fucking horrible.
Here's my problem with grape flavored anything. It tastes nothing like grapes.
Nothing.
It's the same with cherry.
I don't even know what it tastes like.
Cherry, flavored cherry, anything doesn't taste anything like cherries.
It tastes like cough medicine.
Yeah. I'm like, this is not, and that's where I start getting, like, the orange I can kind of get. I'm like, okay, sure. Lemon lime I think is the easiest one to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I can't do
a cherry Tootsie Pop is fucking bomb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, strawberry always all the way.
Okay. Do you ever eat fast food?
I do. Yeah. I'll stop. I have my cheat meals. I'll say this. I don't ever choose to eat fast food. If I'm getting fast food, it's either because I'll back up. If I'm getting fast food, it's either because I'm like, I am treating myself. I haven't had fast food in like 6 months, or I have to go from point A to point B. I only have 15 minutes. I cannot stop. I cannot do this. And I have to get food.
So if you were going to treat yourself,
yep.
Where are you going?
Five Guys.
That's fast food?
Fast food, yeah. Well, I mean, you go in, you order at the counter, and leave.
Yeah, I guess.
If it's not Five Guys, I'll be a little bit of a snob here. It's either Pilchuck Drive-In, which is in Snohomish.
Yep.
It's a little spot. If I'm going chain that I know I'm going to find anywhere, Taco Bell. Mm-hmm. Like, if you want the way to my heart, give me a peanut butter shake, fries, and a 2-patty bacon cheeseburger. From anywhere, from any non-chain fast food place. Mm-hmm. That is the way to my heart. Going to some little hole in the wall, like non-chain fast food place, like, a Burger Shack on the side of the road, double bacon cheeseburger with fries and a peanut butter shake. But if it's like, hey, I'm in Iowa and I have no idea where I am or what I'm doing, I'm probably going to find a Taco Bell.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you were going to take a road trip, and you're almost too young for me to ask this. If you were going to take a road trip,
no, I'm legal.
And you had to play, it's not a playlist that you generated on your own.
Yeah.
It is an album, CD, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It was purchased from that band and unaltered.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to put it on repeat.
Yep.
Because it's the only one you got.
Yep.
What do you take?
Ooh, that's rough. Okay, I'm going to be a dick. I'm not going to change I'm not going to.
You want to know where and what you're driving?
I want to know. No, I want to know what time of year it is. I want to know. Yeah, I want to know what time of year it is. What kind of weather am I looking at? And what kind of road trip am I taking? Like vacation, or I have to drive somewhere to meet somebody? Like I have to go to New York to see a family member or something.
First one we'll do in July.
Okay. And
you're just having fun.
If I'm on my way out, I'm going to pick up probably a Morgan Wallen album, some kind of country or rock, probably Morgan Wallen's first big debut album. Mm-hmm. On happy summer road trips on vacation mode, I am like classic rock or country, just we're going to go hang out and have a good time kind of vibes.
Next one is it's winter and it is spur of the moment and you know whatever you have to go deal with is going to be fucking drama filled, and you're basically irritated the entire time you're done.
It's either going to be Breaking Benjamin's Phobia album or Stain's 14 Shades of Grey. Yeah, those are the ones I grew up on because they're both melancholy, but they also have that bite and kind of fuck you to them as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The reason I like Nutshell, just that song, not the album, is it was my thought processing song. If I wanted to put a song, if I'm all fucked up in the head over something, and I need to chew on some shit. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm driving to work, driving home, driving whatever, sitting in my car in a parking lot and just need to work something out. And I know that I'm stressed out. I've just got to chew some shit. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I can put that song on repeat, mm-hmm. and it just goes. And I don't know if it's the cadence. I don't know if it's the word. I don't know what it is about that song, mm-hmm. but more than any other song, it helps me work everything.
My problem is, I want to say this is like my inability to focus. That can almost be any song that gets me into a flow state. I could almost pick. It has to fit the mood, but I could pick almost any song that on a playlist I have and put it on repeat and just load that one song on repeat for days and days on end. Yeah. I don't care. I've done that with one song I've done that with the most is Someday by Nickelback. I can put that, and that's probably the one, like when I have to chew crap over, it's that song. Someday by Nickelback. I don't know what it is about that song. I think it is the greatest song ever written. Anybody in the world can fuck me dead over that song. I don't care. There's something about that song that, especially when I have to really chew through stuff, I will put it on. And I think it's one of the greatest songs ever written. I think the arrangement's amazing. The lyrics, the emotion of it is perfect.
That's the first song that I ever learned every single word to by heart and would sing openly just because I love the song so much was The Ballad of Curtis Lowe by Leonard Skinner.
Yeah.
So what is your song? What's the one song, the one that you can remember that for whatever reason just struck you and you just knew it?
Like the first song I can remember hearing and just knowing all the lyrics all of a sudden, it was End of Innocence by Don Henley. That End of Innocence album was around me a lot as a kid. And that was the first song that I could, because we'd always listen to the first track, Forgiveness, and then we'd listen to it. But then when we got to the song of End of Innocence, like all the lyrics, especially the chorus, just were downloaded immediately.
Misery and Gin. The other one I remember, because when I would spend all those summers with my dad in the truck, he had Merle Haggard Back to the Bar Rooms, and it would just fucking loop in his Peterbilt. And out of all the songs on that album, for who knows what insane reason, Misery and Gin was the one that I remembered it, right?
Right.
But it didn't hit me like my childhood best friend and I, Eric, him and I would sing that song, The Ballad of Curtis Lowe.
Yeah.
For who knows what fucking reason.
I have a lot of songs. Again, luckily growing up in a musical family, it almost makes me like tear up. But like my dad, if I hear, I don't know the name of the song. The funny thing is I could sing you the guitar part because I heard it so many times. I think it's She Talks to Angels. But my
From
dad,
the Black Rose?
Yeah.
Lock of hair in her pocket.
But it's the opening guitar part, that acoustic guitar part.
Okay.
Din, 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 din. That whole thing. My dad would play that all the time, and if I ever hear that, it's like back to my dad right there. Gotcha. That and my dad's a massive Led Zeppelin fan, but the first song I fell in love with by Led Zeppelin was I love this because it's a song that not a lot of people know. It's 10 Years Gone. I hear that song and I immediately just childhood comes rushing back. So.
Yeah.
10 Years Gone by Led Zeppelin. I don't know what it is about that song, but just everything about that song. I'm like, childhood, here it is.
Yeah.
Dad's playing guitar in the living room.
Got it. Well, this will be a short episode, but there was there was a few things I really wanted to dig into the podcast. your podcast and talk about some miscellaneous shit.
We got a little bit of time too. It's up to you.
I don't know that I do.
Okay, totally cool.
I don't even know what time it is.
6:32.
Got it. Yeah, you're performing tonight.
I am. Yeah.
So, yeah, you probably need me to entertain you for another 20 minutes.
No, you don't. I'm gonna probably go hit the bar and get like a full meal in me and all that. I basically drank an energy shake, a protein bar, and
some peanut butter.
And I had a bowl of granola this morning. So
God, I wish I could have it. When I eat granola, it's my weakness was I would take Costco used to have a bag of granola that had a little bit of cinnamon and apple or something. I don't know. It was maple. And I'd pour that with fresh raspberries, and I would use half and half instead of milk. It was so good, but man, it's like cement couldn't. I could eat a bag of cement afterwards, and it wouldn't stop Mother Nature from just coming through my body.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, it was way too painful.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, congratulations for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come sit with me.
Yeah.
And I will figure out how to link some Dissonant Harmonics, and we can share each other's stuff or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll work it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my wife and I look forward to coming and seeing you this evening.
Yeah, it'll be great having you.
Yeah. All right. Well, peace.
Later.